this week's drive, we go for a spin without hitting anything, swap 2 wheels for 4, swap 4 wheels for none at all, and see the future of cruising. All this and more in this week's Drive. The half-mile short track of the Martinsville Speedway, well, it's actually 0.526 of a mile in length, is the shortest on the NASCAR circuit, and it hosted the Old Dominion 500. On lap 179, Kurt Busch spun off, but regained control of his car and continued racing. But his spin did bring out a caution flag. The replay showed it was not his fault. Busch was actually tapped from behind by Jeff Gordon. Later, there was another spin on the short track as Jeff Bodine tapped into the back of Joe Nemechek. But like Busch, Nemechek did not sustain any damage to his car. After pitting for fuel and tyres, he was back in the race. Jeff Gordon, 4 times a NASCAR champion, was falling out of contention. He tagged the outside wall slightly, but it wasn't enough damage to knock him out of the race. Kurt Busch led for 110 of the last 111 laps and took the checkered flag for his second career win. He started in 36th place. No driver had ever started a race from so far back on the Martinsville Speedway and won. He celebrated with a few 360-degree spins, to the delight of the crowd. Johnny Benson was all over Busch's rear bumper as the laps wound down, but couldn't make the pass and stayed second. A Smart is an unlikely rally car, but 65 vehicles started the 2002 World Cup Rally from Blenheim Palace before heading across Europe to finish in Athens. The 6,000-kilometre route included 28 time stages and traversed 12 countries in 12 days of competitive motoring. The leading all-woman crew of Sophie Robinson and Katrina Rings tackled the mountain climb out of Dubrovnik. Sophie's determined attitude and proven record won her the drive ahead of nearly 60 hopefuls in a competition to find a lady driver. The event is the first rally to drive the length of the Balkans since the Yugoslavian Civil War 10 years ago, and is also the first rally ever to enter Albania, which has never seen any kind of international motorsport. Mick Darcy in the MG pushed hard on the hill, improving his standings with a best time of 9 minutes and 5 seconds, starting the day well and ending it by leading the rally. This is a moment in history, as no production MG has ever led an international rally since MG sports cars first appeared in 1927. The steepest section of the Kotor Hill was run in a force 10 gale and teeming rain. Darcy made the most of every inch of tarmac before the gravel in Greece, on the basis that his Avons would then be a disadvantage. He stormed up in 12 minutes 47 seconds, with his rival in second place, Alistair Caldwell, taking 13 minutes and 2 seconds. David Winstanley had an off with a local Albanian driver, dropping out of the top 10 from 4th overall, but the Daihatsu was repaired to rally on. Ahead lay the mountains of northern Greece as the weather turned even worse. Darcy lost the lead as his MG had to cope with plenty of gravel, made more bumpy by recent heavy rain. Caldwell and Cotton were flying in their number 14 Peugeot and took the lead 6 seconds up on the MG. Luckily, the next day was a rest day, so Alistair Caldwell was able to make vital repairs to his drive shafts in a Greek hotel car park. Rain fade and weariness caused incidents like this for Duncan McIntyre's 1973 Beetle. More serious was this off-course excursion by Paul Ashton's Nissan Micra, but remarkably he was able to recover the car and continue to finish the event in 17th place. The victorious little 14-year-old Peugeot 205 reached the Acropolis 3 minutes and 21 seconds ahead of the MG, with a Proton Satria third. 57 of the 65 starters finished the event. Valentino Rossi, fresh from Australia where he notched up the 50th Grand Prix victory of his motorcycle racing career, was given the first opportunity to test the Michelin Peugeot 206 World Rally car that he'll drive in November's Rally of Great Britain. After unveiling this striking car, the 23-year-old Italian and his co-driver Carlo Cassina, who's 42, got down to business with their first test session on gravel roads in the mountains behind the Italian Riviera resort of Imperia. Although a long way from the Welsh forests that will host Britain's round of the 2002 World Series, the tracks used for the session offered similar conditions to those that the Italian crew will encounter in November, and allowed the pair to familiarise themselves with their customer specification 206. Rossi has driven World Rally cars in the past on events like the Race of Champions and the Bologna Rally Sprint, but this time it was a case of getting to grips with and setting up their powerful machine in genuine rally stage conditions. The 14th and final round of the 2002 World Rally Championship will be run over 381 kilometres of timed stages and a total distance of 1,617 kilometres, run entirely in South Wales. So it's likely to be much colder and much wetter than the conditions that Valentino experienced in this shakedown run. Valentino, at the age of 23, is already a 4-time world champion, each in a different category of motorcycle Grand Prix racing. His win rate of 46% far outstrips any other modern competitor, and he is already being compared with German Formula One champion Michael Schumacher. Rossi will test drive a BAR Formula One car early next year, and there is talk of him matching the record of John Surtees, so far the only man to win both Formula One and Grand Prix Motorcycle World Championships in the 1960s. Valentino's interest in rallying began at an early age, watching his father compete after he had retired from motorcycle racing. His father, Graziano, was a top motorcyclist in the 1970s.
Yes, rally is one of my passion because my father, when finished to race with the motorbike, start with the rally. So sometimes go with the rally car in the night near my home, riding or stay on the side. And also when it's possible, I go always to see the rallies like Monte Carlo or Sanremo. And we make something. At the end of the championship, but not real rally, like Motor Show, Memorial Bettega or Rally di Monza, and now we try to make one real rally for understand, but only for fun.
Okay, but it's a big rally.
Yes, difficult, very difficult. The problem is we have only one chance, only this one, because the other rallies are during the season and it's not possible.
Okay, so what's your objective for the Rally of Great Britain? What's your aim?
Have fun and arrive at the end.
Okay.
Rossi admitted that he's not likely to give up motorcycle racing for rallying in the foreseeable future, but that he was determined to enjoy his drive in the rally.
Now it's only for passion, it's only for fun. I think we stay with the motorbike, I hope, for some years, and after I don't know.
Okay.
The 5-day Intermot motorcycle show was recently held in the German city of Munich, and several manufacturers held world premieres of new models. More than 1,000 exhibitors presented their latest products to trade and public visitors from around the world. In 12 gigantic halls, displays of the biggest, smallest, fastest, most expensive, most economical and most advanced two-wheelers glittered under the blazing lights. On the trade days before the show opened to the public, exhibitors from 38 countries argue terms with the world's dealers to get next year's dream machines into a showroom near you. Hot on the heels of their all-new 999, Ducati used the show to reveal their visually similar 749. The two models replaced the 998 and 748, which for several years have been the technical and styling benchmarks for high-performance sporting motorcycles. The 749 produces 103 horsepower against the 97 of its predecessor. The bike has a revolutionary electrical system using CAN line technology, ergonomic features to improve rider control, and a new exhaust system that boosts performance.
both the aspects were developed from the very beginning together. So the design never goes in a direction without taking into consideration the technical contents of the bike, as the technical contents of the bike develop themselves together with the design.
BMW's corporate headquarters are in Munich, although the bikes are actually built at Spandau near Berlin. They used the show to launch several new models. Flat twin-cylinder engines have been used in BMW bikes since 1923, so it's no surprise that a couple of versions have been upgraded. This is the R1150R, which gets the obligatory Street Fighter look for next year, and along with minor technical tweaks and upgrades. Stung by the failure of their underpowered and unloved cruisers, BMW have tried again with this full dresser version, the R1200CL. It gets a fairing, hard luggage, more lights and a 6-speed gearbox. At the other end of the power scale is the K1200 GT, which uses the 130 horsepower flat 4-cylinder engine in a sports touring compromise that fills a gap between the two extremes. The 300-kilogram GT offers servo-assisted brakes, height-adjustable heated seats front and rear, and an electrically adjustable windscreen. Harley-Davidson is America's oldest motorcycle manufacturer and turns 100 next year. Buell, now a wholly owned subsidiary of Harley-Davidson, used Intermot to show the Lightning XB9S to Europe. The sporty Street Fighter is a modified version of the Firebolt, with its fuel tank in the frame and oil tank in the swing arm. And it has a unique, large-diameter, single front disc brake squeezed by a 6-piston caliper. Harley's traditional roots are reflected, but distorted, in the V-Rod. America's only remaining volume manufacturer has stuck with its inline V-twin engine design for nearly a century, but technology is more grudgingly embraced in Milwaukee than it is in Munich. The V-Rod, with its liquid-cooled, Porsche-inspired fuel-injected engine, is a quantum leap forward. With all that anodized and polished aluminium, V-Rods are available in any color you like, so long as it's silver. But for their more traditional owners, Harley still has variations of its more traditional models, although the looming centenary is getting a big workup with lots of commemorative limited editions. Actually, Harley designers have worked hard to upgrade and improve the bikes, but without it being apparent to the traditionalists. MZ is one of the oldest bike builders in the world, and they've developed their own 1000cc engine, claimed to be the world's most powerful twin-cylinder inline mass-produced motor.
Oh, because it's a beautiful bike and it's a special design, and the motorcycle has also high performance. It's a 2-cylinder, 4-stroke, and with 998 cc and 115 horsepower. It's with a 2-way catalyzer, so technical side, the state of art, and also from the design side.
Motorcycle safety is a contentious issue in the industry, and the Honda Rider Simulator allowed riders to test their skills without the usual painful results.
Anti-lock brakes make you sure to brake without a fall, and that's the main thing. You can brake the maximum, you have the shortest distance to your obstacle, and you have not the fear to fall. And we have in our accident research found out that every motorcycle driver who falls gets the worstest injuries because he collides against the hardest parts of the car or another obstacle.
Dr. Sporner's research showed that in 93% of the cases he analysed, a fall could have been avoided if ABS anti-lock brakes were fitted. He found that 10% of all fatal motorcycle accidents could be avoided if ABS were a standard feature on all motorcycles. We'll wrap up the events of the Intermot show in next week's Drive. Heat 21 of the Australian Speedway Grand Prix sees newly crowned 5-times world champion Tony Rickardsson up against fellow Swede Steve Johnston, Australian Ryan Sullivan and Briton Scott Nicholls. Local star Sullivan in the red helmet leads, but Rickardsson is passed by Nicholls and is eliminated, and only the top 2 progress. Heat 24, the second semi-final, where Nicholls lined up against Czech Lucas Drummel, Greg Hancock of the US and Mikael Karlsson of Sweden. In the pack, Drummel in the white helmet brushes Karlsson and his bike gets sideways, almost hits race leader Hancock, finds traction and slams into Karlsson, hitting him on the arm and the head. Watch again from a different angle and we see how severe the accident could have been. Carlsen is taken away on a stretcher as his countryman, world champion Rickardsson, talks to him. Drummel was able to walk away but was excluded by English referee Tony Steele for being the primary cause of the crash. The final saw Nichols and Hancock line up against Australian Jason Crump and Norway's Rune Holte, the first time he's reached a final. American Hancock, in the blue silk, leads Nicholl and Crump across the line. The 31,000-strong crowd might have hoped for a hometown victory since the sport originated in Australia, but they were out of luck. The win was the only one of the year for Hancock, who finished equal fifth in the world title, tied with Carlsen. It was also the best result of the year for Nicholl. The event was not only the first world title round in Australia, but the first motorsport event to be held in the stadium constructed for the 2000 Olympic Games. Australia, without a world champion for over 50 years, had to be content with Crump, Sullivan and Ryan Adams finishing second, third and fourth respectively. World champ Rickardsson is joined on the podium by Crump and Sullivan. California. Where better to show a car inspired by the fun, sun and surf lifestyle? Chrysler recently showed a concept of what is widely tipped to be the next step for their popular PT Cruiser. The all-new California Cruiser concept builds on the style and practicality seen in the PT. A versatile two-door vehicle with a rear hatch and multifunctional interior, the California Cruiser builds on the quirky and distinctive style and features of the production series. While concept cars are often long on design ideals and short on practicalities, the variable seating and flat floor options look practical and would be popular with surfers and campers alike. Since its launch as a production vehicle in February 2000, more than 450,000 PT Cruisers have been sold worldwide. The PT redefined the blend of design and versatility in the small vehicle market, making retro compatible with modern functionality and cost-effective mass production techniques. With the California Cruiser, Chrysler is showing the direction of the next generation of the boxy little wagon. Chrysler's 2.4-litre four-cylinder engine grows a turbocharger to appease demands for more power. The concept of the California Cruiser has space for 4 people and their travel needs, and it can be transformed into a hotel room for 2. The two-door body style stays true to the design of the original 4-door Cruiser, but gives a clue to a possible evolution in the styling. The cabin, in concept form at least, manages to combine modern technology with retro styling. External upgrades include the modernised doubled headlamps and clear lens taillights, but don't expect those huge 19-inch bullet wheels and low-profile tyres to make their way into showroom-ready production versions. It's very unlikely that they'd make it through ride comfort and cabin noise requirements. It's a pity, they're really good looking. Chrysler presented the first PT Cruiser concept early in 1998 at the Geneva Motor Show with the Pronto Cruiser. It was followed at the 1999 Detroit show by the industry's most short-lived concept car, the PT Cruiser. Short-lived since the production version was rolled out within 5 minutes. The California's roofline and windscreen have been lowered and the roof is nearly all glass. The front half of the glass is a power retractable sunroof, and the rear window and small windows above the rear wheels can be lowered to further the open-air experience. One styling feature that will turn heads is the satin silver side panel that seems almost to recall the Woody theme back to the present day. Chrysler's creation of a working example of another variation is very much an attempt to gauge public reaction, and it's almost a certainty that we'll see a two-door multi-application cruiser on the options list sometime after 2004. There's just one retro aspect that Chrysler seemed to shy away from: engine note. While the 2.4 engine might be efficient and the turbo is doubtless powerful, it just doesn't sound the same as a throbbing big-inch V8 breathing through slash-cut side pipes. Formula One driver Juan Pablo Montoya married his fiancée Connie Freidel at an evening church ceremony in Cartagena in Colombia. Hundreds of police and security men were on hand to control the large crowds who'd flocked to the Santo Toribio church, hoping to catch a glimpse of Colombia's wedding of the year. Juan Pablo failed to win a single Grand Prix in the Formula One season, despite hounding the Ferraris all year, and his wedding will surely be the highest point of 2002 for him. The traditional ceremony was attended by over 300 invited friends and family, and the bride arrived, traditionally late, while Juan Pablo waited inside. Thousands flocked to the church to catch a glimpse of Montoya, who is one of Colombia's biggest stars, and his new wife. The happy couple emerged from the church at the end of the ceremony and walked through the streets. The large number of people brought the downtown area to a standstill, but hundreds of policemen made sure that the wedding went off without a hitch. What do you do if you've got a big empty field, several old wrecks that just won't die, and an enormous black fishing buoy? One of the world's top rugby-playing nations, New Zealand, has never been a particular force when it comes to the world's most popular sport, soccer. But now, a group of creative motorsport fans have found a way to change all that. However, it's not quite soccer as we know it, and scouts from the world's top clubs needn't quite book their plane tickets yet in their unending search for the next generation's superstars. Introducing the newest way to spend a Sunday: car soccer. The rules are as minimal as the goals are wide, although the object is to direct the fishing buoy across the line of the opposing team's goal area, marked by enormous hay bales, and in this case, framed by some spectacular snow-capped mountains in the distance. The first quarter in this game had just 3 cars involved, as one of the competitors couldn't get started for the beginning of the match. The second had the full quota of 4 vehicles taking part, while the third was back to a 2-on-1 scenario due to one player's radiator having a huge hole smashed in it at the end of the second quarter. Tactically, there seems to be just one method of progressing, and that's a somewhat primitive variation on what has always been seen as a rather naive strategy: push and run. Apart from that, the tackling is fierce, there's no offside, and match officials are conspicuous by their absence. It's not really soccer the way FIFA sees it now, is it? As to the chances of car soccer becoming an Olympic sport, well, let's just say that they're somewhat remote. Half-time in this game means more than oranges and changing ends. Dean Guthrie organises and plays the matches, as does his brother.
Well, basically, a couple of years ago, we talking about hitting a car around with the old cars, but everyone else does it, so we decided we'd have a game of soccer and sorted out a ball, which we finally got a decent ball, and it's worked really well ever since.
You don't need a lot of skills, you just got to be prepared to take a few bangs and do a bit of panel beating at the end of the day. It's a great sport. It's really taken off since we started down here, and it's just a shame we only had 4 cars anticipating today, because there's another big race meet next week or the week after up in Oxford, and they wanted to save their cars for that.
The Kiwis have been trying to get an Australian speedway club to take up their challenge for a trans-Tasman clash. As for challenges from further afield, well, that seems a long way away. We'll end this week on that faintly bizarre note, but so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.